What's up, folks? Maximilian here, and welcome back to more Arcade Stories. A conclusion and telling of some unique arcade stories I had growing up as a kid, and growing up in arcades playing a multitude of video games where you can watch some of that extra footage I have of Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 in the background. The first episode got a pretty good response. If you guys did not get a chance to check it out, I was talking about learning to stick in arcades and eventually learning or making the transition from controller to arcade stick, and you can click the annotation in the top right screen. But for now, let's continue where we left off before, which was me spending literally over a year learning how to play a stick and kind of making my way up in the Marvel vs. Capcom community at my local arcade. Making a few friends here and there, but still amongst the upper echelon of guys, I was just that one kid. And learned how to use a stick, and then one day Marvel 1 was gone, and I remember hearing things about it, and then lo and behold, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was there. So I remember the day Marvel 2 was there. It was huge. The character roster was more than you could even imagine. Like, the original roster in Marvel vs. Capcom 1, I think, was less than 20 characters. If you include the secret characters, it might be like just around that. But Marvel 2, the roster was almost intimidatingly big. It was just insane, like 55 plus freaking characters. I saw all the characters I used in previous games. Like, I used Chun and Wolverine a lot in previous Versus Series games, so I was like, alright, let's go with that. And my initial impression wasn't so hot. I actually didn't like Strider very much either in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. None of his normal combos worked anymore. He didn't have the damage output he had from the previous game, and sure, he had more mobility, but he died so fast. And I was just like, well, I don't want to use Strider anymore. So I went to like Chun, and I went to Gambit, and I went to Wolverine. And all these characters just sucked. Like, anyone that was remotely good in Marvel vs. Capcom 1, the one I had played the most, dude, they were so bad in Marvel 2, and I was so disappointed. It wasn't just the fact that the characters I was accustomed to using weren't good anymore, it was that things dramatically changed. So, for you guys that might have grown up with Capcom fighters back in the day and loved them like I did, dude, 6-button fighters, that's the way Capcom games were. All of a sudden, Marvel 2 is a 6-button fighter, technically, but it's got 4 attack buttons and 2 assist buttons. So naturally, this kind of blew my little childhood mind, because I had only been accustomed to, like, you know, the set of punch attacks and the set of kick attacks, and now there's something different. And even more weird is that when you press the light button twice, it does the light button on the first attack, and if they are block or if it hits, it goes into the medium, and then you press the next button. It was very awkward. It was very weird, and that was something that really, really, really bugged me about the game, and I did not like it very much. The other thing that really bugged me as well was calling assists with a unique button, and that's, like I was saying with the first episode, getting accustomed to using a stick is really difficult because you need to know exactly where your buttons are. And all of a sudden, Marvel 2 just kind of threw that shit out the window, and it's like, your assists are over here now, and there's no longer a medium punch or a medium kick. Deal with it. It's like, oh, what the hell? It was annoying, dude. I really did not like Marvel 2 a lot at the start. And during this time, I actually found myself going back and playing Marvel 1 an awful lot. I actually learned a few infinites with some characters. I was able to do Chun's infinite fairly frequently. Gambit's was super easy and stuff like that. And I was actually, you know, kind of having fun playing the game, because people would be like, whoa, infinites. But the thing is, as soon as a new game comes out, the old game falls to the wayside really fast, and nobody was playing Marvel 1 anymore, and everybody was learning how to play Marvel 2. Like, let's talk about some of the older teams, like the original top tiers in Marvel 2. Guile was ridiculously top tier. Iceman, insane. Nobody knew what the hell to do against him. Let's see, who else was there that was amazing at first? Everybody was still using Magneto at first, even though that no one figured out his mobility yet. It was stuff like that. I think as far as assist characters go, Cyclops wasn't big yet, Psylocke wasn't big yet, but it took me a long time to break into that game. I did not actually end up getting decent at Marvel 2 or Cammy. Cammy was one of those characters that was really amazing early as well, until the Dreamcast version came out. And I remember the day the Dreamcast version came out, dude. I was at an electronics boutique outside the store. My mom dropped me off early at the mall, waiting. I was the only one there. I was the launch party for Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and its console release in Valencia, California. I was the only, like, 14, 15-year-old kid that was like, gotta get it. Got a combo. And I got my game, and it was amazing, and I had this ridiculous, like, 8-hour wait until I had to go home, and that was one of the worst days ever because of that. But I went home, and I played so much Marvel 2 when I was at home, it was crazy. If you guys don't remember, this is kind of getting off the arcade stories topic, but do you remember those old Agitech Dreamcast sticks? I think they're known as the Green Goblins. I still have a couple, and they've actually made a few cameos in the Assist Me series. Those things were amazing. Those were the best arcade sticks you could possibly get for any system that were made somewhat officially. Those were the official quote-unquote, even though they were made by Agitech. They had the Dreamcast logo on them, and they were the official sticks for the Dreamcast, and dude, they were perfect. Especially for the fact that Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the Dreamcast actually ran better than the arcade version. The arcade version had some slowdown and some crazy situations where you would call out Storm's Hailstorm and stuff like that. Dreamcast version actually alleviated it. Anyway, that was my history with Marvel 2. I'll get a bit more into Marvel 2 because I have a little bit more future arcade history with that game. But for the most part, that's how I was introduced to it. It wasn't good at first. I hated the game a lot, but everyone kept playing it, and I didn't actually like it until I got it at home in my hands. Now let's look back in the previous video. I've had a pretty unique comment from somebody that I wanted to make part of this second episode, and it's from Cambo4284, and he said, "When I first saw Killer Instinct at the arcade, my jaw literally dropped to the floor. I'd never seen a fighting game with those type of graphics before, and it blew my mind." I will absolutely agree with you. So back in the day, the big fighting games people were playing were the Street Fighter 2 series. I think Alpha 1 might have been out. And Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat had reached about Mortal Kombat 2 at that point. I don't think MK3 had come out just yet. But I remember the day I saw Killer Instinct. I did not even have a Super Nintendo yet. I remember buying a Super Nintendo specifically for Killer Instinct. And the character that sold me on the game, and it was like the showcase character, was Fulgore. Fulgore looked like a Predator somewhat, and I loved that because I loved the Predator movies and the Aliens movies as a kid. And I was like, oh my god, he's got like the spikes on his arm, he's got the cool face mask that looks like the Predator. Oh my god, just freaking total nerdgasm in the middle of an arcade. So I think the original, man, when did Killer Instinct come out? I must have been, like, not even a teenager yet. I must have been, like, 10, 11 years old or something along those lines. And I saw that thing for the first time in the arcade, and you had no idea what you're doing. I had never played Mortal Kombat. Put my hands on this thing, and I wasn't even anybody to play me, but the graphics looked so mind-jawingly, like, droppingly just blow my effing mind. They were so cool looking. Mostly because what they did, I think, was actually use claymation, and then they digitized claymation sprites. So you know how you had, like, analog humans for Mortal Kombat, and they digitized people? They actually digitized claymation, which was a really good idea, and it looked damn cool. It looked really cool. Killer Instinct was at the top of its game when it came out as far as 2D fighting games. And that game was brilliant, man, especially in the arcades. It took a long time for it to come out on consoles as well. But for the little bit of time I was playing it in arcades, I was never that good at it. I eventually would have called, like, dude, remember the hotline numbers they had? Like 1-800-Nintendo or something like that. And it's like, yo, hook me up to the Killer Instincts lady, like, what character do you want to use? I'm like, be Orchid. Then she's all like, what move would you like to see? And I'm like, I want the one where you shoes off the boobies. Called that thing up way too much. For some reason, I didn't write them down, and got a huge speaking to from my parents back in the day for calling up the Killer Instinct hotline way too damn much. But eventually, I got my thing. I got my code to do Fulgore's final combo, and I barely knew how to do any combos at all. It was just playing the game just filled me with so much joy that I couldn't even imagine. And I eventually got to do Fulgore's final amazing fatality, and I had never seen it before. And I take out the guy, and then I do the motion. It doesn't work. I back up a little bit because you have to be at this little unique distance from your character, and then Fulgore's head, or the entire game, stops for a second. The lights dim on the game, the music changes, and Fulgore's head sinks into his chest. This gigantic robotic metal piece comes up from his back over his head, and he grabs onto the side, and this huge effing machine gun goes on forth and blows away your opponent. I remember it being so loud, too, like the sound of each one of the bullets coming out of the machine gun piercing the body of your opponent. It was visceral. It was gory. I was way too young to probably be seeing that, and it was so freaking awesome. I couldn't believe it. Thank you guys once again for tuning into another episode of Arcade Stories. If you happen to enjoy the video, I'd appreciate a comment or a thumbs up below. And as always, if you want to leave a comment or questions regarding arcade history or personal arcade stories of yourself, I really like reading that stuff, and I'll probably bring it up in a topic in the next episode. My name is Maximilian, and I'll see you guys next time.